open the episode back at the World Dome from the previous episode, where star basketball athlete Trick Daly, who we last saw being interviewed in the previous episode, is approached by a new backup player and future Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonist, Drake SYPHER.
Trick! Yo, Trick! Drake SYPHER, your new backup. Just wanted to say it's awesome to be playing with you, man. Just awesome.
You're who again?
After a bit of admiration, SYPHER initiates a high five, which Daly accepts, causing this to happen.
Game time.
We then cut to recycled animation from the previous episode as the game begins, with Ace and Rev out in the stands enjoying the game. However, trouble begins brewing when Daly starts underperforming, knocking into his own players. With the score now tied, their coach puts Daly on the bench and brings SYPHER into the game.
I've only seen riding like this from Trick Daly! Oh, and he shoots! Using a boomerang ricochet shot and he scores! The Rangers win the game! The Rangers win the game!
Afterwards, Ace and Rev get the chance to meet SYPHER, who admits he's a personal fan of them, resulting in handshakes that force me to deal with more flashing lights. Shrugging off the experience as bad stadium food, the two attempt to leave, only for Rev to realize not only can he not fly, he's speaking normally.
Ace, I can't fly. And listen to my voice, it sounds so normal.
After the intro, we return to HQ, where Tech is testing Rev's speed.
That's as fast as I can go. And cramping now. And pain.
Well, Rev, the good news is that the machine is working. The bad news is that you're not.
Ace is also unable to produce his I-beams, leading Tech to confirm that they've lost their powers. But, on the plus side, Ace's martial arts skills and Rev's regular Roadrunner speed are still intact. With Ace now disadvantaged, Duck insists one of the others with powers take over as leader for the time being, totally indicating he wants it to be himself. Zadavia seems to agree. She orders Ace and Rev to remain at HQ until they can figure out what's going on with their powers, and has Lexi take over as leader in the meantime. And their first order of business is to prevent a dam from bursting and flooding a nearby tourist camp. Lexi brings Duck and Slam along, while Tech stays behind with Rev and Ace. By the time the trio make it to the dam, it's already bursting. During their attempts to stop the dam, Slam notices a certain someone caught in the water flow, whom he dives in to save.
Gotcha.
Using Slam and Ace's powers, SYPHER manages to stop the water flow, leaving Lexi and Duck confused, and Slam powerless. Before they can realize what just happened, SYPHER goes after Lexi next, but is unable to shake Duck's hand before he's carted off by the tourists. Lexi and Slam silently realized what just happened to them as we fade to commercial. Wendell Morris began his career with, of all things, Muppet Vision 3D for the Disney parks, working as a production assistant. This relationship with Disney would also land him a similar production assistant duty for The Rocketeer. His writing chops began with single episodes of Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego and Freakazoid, then a few episodes of Street Sharks. Then came his big break, working on 36 episodes of Pinky and the Brain. After writing for the follow-up show with Elmira, Morris would coast along through the rest of the 90s and 2000s with 1 or 2 episodes of shows like Johnny Bravo, Detention, The Zeta Project, and Totally Spies. The longest show he stayed on for around this time was Crypto the Superdog, for which he wrote 5 episodes of. He would also write and direct the 2001 romantic dramedy film The Medicine Show. SYPHER would be his only episode of Loonatics. Afterwards, the only notable shows he would write for include a sole episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fast Forward and Chaotic. Much like Mark Hoffmeyer, Larry Houston is a name that doesn't seem too out of the ordinary. Then you see his resume and you can't help but be impressed. Houston is another alumni of Filmation. working as a storyboard artist for the Lone Ranger segments of the Tarzan Zorro Lone Ranger Hour. After that, he worked on 8 episodes of Thundar the Barbarian and every episode of Spider-Man 1981. Other storyboard credits of his include Gem, Denver the Last Dinosaur, James Bond Jr., and both the 1987 and 2003 iterations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the former of which he storyboarded a whopping 117 episodes for. In 1986, he expanded his credentials with the role of producer, starting with G.I. Joe, then would serve as producer for shows like the Karate Kid cartoon, Captain Planet, and the New Adventures of Johnny Quest. Then comes the big one. Larry Houston's best-known work is the 1992 X-Men cartoon, where he would direct every single episode of the show, as well as share a producer credit. For Loonatics Unleashed, he would storyboard 7 episodes, 3 in Season 1 and 4 in Season 2. After Loonatics, Houston would storyboard for the likes of the Superhero Squad show, Randy Cunningham, 9th Grade Ninja, and the Land Before Time 14. Yes, there have been that many Land Before Time movies. I'm just as shocked as you are. We return to HQ, Lexi recapping what had happened to them to Ace, Tech, and Rev. Rev is cautiously optimistic that SYPHER is seemingly using their powers for good, but Lexi reiterates that their powers were stolen and they need to be returned, if that's even possible. With Duck and Tech as the only members of the team still with their powers, the Mallard proclaims himself leader. Zadavia alerts the team to a parade that's being grand-marshaled by SYPHER, then reveals via her personal satellites that he was responsible for the dam bursting, using Ace's I-beams to crack it open. With the team now realizing that he's stealing their powers to hog fame and fortune, even if he's the one setting up disasters for himself to fix, Zadavia urges the team to stop SYPHER before he kickstarts a disaster that not even he could stop, even with his combined set of powers. Once at the parade, Duck calls out SYPHER for stealing his friend's powers, but SYPHER is able to gaslight the crowd into thinking they're just jealous that he has a similar set of powers and can use them better.
They're just trying to smear me. I say they go back to the petting zoo where they came from.
As the crowds get riled up, SYPHER gets to work sapping Tech's powers, then fights the rest of the Lunatics with their combined abilities, all while continuing to gaslight the crowds into thinking the Lunatics are the bad guys in this situation, which seems to be working.
All right, Captain Suck-Up, and I mean that literally. Let me ask you something. Can you do this?
No, but it sure looks cool.
Duck puts up a good fight, but in the end, SYPHER wins, draining Duck of his powers and leaving the entire team powerless. End of Act 2. Back at HQ, the team is probably at their lowest point seen in the show so far. No powers, no chance at fighting SYPHER, and, most importantly, their reputation has likely been tarnished even further. Ace, however, refuses to give up. As mentioned earlier in the episode, all of their natural powers are still theirs. This gives Tech the confidence boost he needs to formulate a new invention. Powered body armor that not only can counteract SYPHER's power-draining abilities, but are also equipped with devices that can emulate their stolen powers. Ace has laser goggles, Rev has speed accelerators, Lexi has a sonic voice amplifier, Slam has circulating jets, Tech has electromagnetic gloves, and Duck...
Yeah, I found it. Doomed.
Hey, give me a break. I only had 5 minutes to come up with all this.
With their new suits, the team heads back into the field, landing in front of SYPHER's new headquarters. After barging their way in with Tech's new powers, they engage SYPHER head-to-head.
Bring it on! I've got your moves, too! Hands off, man!
Hey, something's happening.
During the fight, Ace puts SYPHER in a hold, an action that restores Ace's powers back to normal. As SYPHER fights off Lexi and Slam, Ace and Tech put 2 and 2 together, realizing that power siphoning can work both ways. Even with this knowledge, the fight against SYPHER is still pretty one-sided, as the man shows impressive martial arts skills. Duck blinds SYPHER with a well-aimed shot, leaving him open for future power draining.
No, don't!
With the team's powers back, SYPHER falls in defeat. Back at HQ, Zadavia is thankful the Loonatics are back to normal. With SYPHER's true nature out in the open, his popularity quickly plummets and is now stuck in prison, with some new power-sapping mitts to prevent him from draining power from anyone ever again. Duck, still in team leader mode, attempts to make some changes around the place, but Zadavia rightfully shuts him down, reminding him that Ace is back in charge.
You know, I didn't quite hear when she wanted Ace back in charge. Tomorrow, or maybe next week. She wasn't specific. Everyone get back here and listen to me.
There's a lot to like about this episode. I like that the writers are maintaining good continuity with the reappearance of Basherball in the opening act. I like that the villains are getting more and more tougher. And I love how the episode has two morals at play that work really well together. A superhero isn't defined solely by their powers, and with great power comes great responsibility. SYPHER steals the Lunatics' powers for all the wrong reasons. He's not in it for the good of saving people, he's only in it for the fame and fortune. And even then, he's the one causing disasters in the first place so he can make himself look good in front of crowds. SYPHER is, by and large, following the Syndrome playbook almost to a T. And on the opposite side of things, the Lunatics had to rely on natural instincts and facsimiles of their powers in order to win against SYPHER. Ace is still an accomplished martial artist, Tech is still a genius, Lexi is still skilled in gymnastics. Despite being powerless, they can still fight back. Not exactly one-to-one, but at least they don't immediately throw in the towel when the chips are down. If I had any complaints, SYPHER falls into the exact same trap as Massive did. We know very little about them as characters. The closest thing we get is SYPHER's comment about how he was in a similar situation to the Lunatics before the meteor hit, but we aren't explicitly told if SYPHER's power siphoning was yet another power the meteor bestowed.
I've been where you are and I am not going back.
It, at the very end, seems to hint that's the case, but without concrete proof, this is all speculation. Will we see a proper villain with motivations again in this season? Only time will tell.